Hi everybody, this is Christy. I am the Intimate Warrior. I thank you so much for stopping by, and as always, I send you love. Before I begin this video on the lesson of the word, I want to begin by adding something that I failed to do so in yesterday's video. Yesterday's video was about stealing, and therefore the 8th commandment. It also worked with the 8th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, in which I already spoke about with Chet. So I'm going to continue on with this kind of a lesson. But in that video, I mentioned that someone stole something from us yesterday morning. After about a week of my husband and I talking about from moment to moment, several times throughout the week about stealing, it came up. That was a major lesson for me. Wherever it is that you are in your journey, and especially your ascension cycle, you are going to have an experience that's going to match the level at which you are currently at in your cycle. You have to really see it. You have to understand it, and you have to choose a greater outcome. If it's something that is really making you feel lower than, you have the obligation and therefore the choice of deciding at where you're going to be. I'm going to calm down, and I'm not going to let this experience control me or control another individual, and I'm going to choose love. That's how you can begin the process of healing it. We don't heal anything by shoving things under the carpet. We don't. We think that just because we think we're forgetting about it in the mind and in the heart because we have, changed the subject. It's not so. Every experience is going to bring up a past experience until the experience no longer controls you. When you are no longer having an emotional reaction to it, you have become healed from it. So I failed to mention that in yesterday's video, or about the video with the 8th commandment in stealing, that although my mind was trying to decide, because my husband and I and my father-in-law are having a discussion, who could have done this to us? The difference is in who I am today and who I would have been even last year is highly significant. I could think, but I was not feeling fear. I was thinking, but I was not feeling violated. I was thinking, but I was not, I was not having an emotional reaction. I was not stressed out. I wasn't anxious. Nothing. But my old self, who most definitely used to be, especially prior to my awareness of my ascension cycle, was full of fear, full of anxiety. My mind would run circles in myself and create all different types of scenarios. So I would have been like, oh my gosh, we got to do this. Oh no, I'm not going to come out of my house any longer. Oh, we got to put, this, and this. And you could hear so much anxiety in my voice before when I was impure. Impure. I'm saying impure, not in the form of, true negativity like you're a bad person. Impure in elements. Impure of understanding. I hope you can understand it better or appreciate that type of analogy there or explanation of it. We are all impure because we all have so much ego that controls. We all have emotions that control and that prevent us from having a greater experience. So I wanted to make sure that you really understood that I was going through a test or an initiation through the path of Chet. Because with Chet, on top of Chet, because I mentioned that it has that yolk. The yolk is highly significant, especially if you know what the egg is. The yolk is very rich in its gold in color. When we have finally hooked up with the letter of Chet. You have the Vav and you have the Zayin. They have married each other. The only way that the man and the woman are married together is when they are following the path of life, of Chet. Chet means life. You have followed the path of light and love. You have listened to the higher aspect of self within you and followed through. You have been an obedient servant. And I know that kind of is a little standoffish to people. To be obedient or a servant can be very harsh things to hear in somebody who is still not ready or who still doesn't understand what it means. Our path requires obedience. We have a mom and a dad who are always bickering internally. And if you are going to be that rebellious child and going against it, now here, let me go ahead and explain this, since I've said that. It's very tricky. It's very tricky on understanding and knowing what to do. The heart will never take you on the wrong path. Never. The ego always will. So when I began to know that God was really hitting me on the head and getting my attention, of course it was at the result of my plead. I guess it was 2017 is when I understood, or 2018 or 2019 is when I actually understood, 2 years after. But when I became a health coach in 2017, and faith and devotions were a part of our process of bettering ourselves to give us confidence and all kinds of good stuff. I didn't really learn value in those devotional books or personal development books, that is. I found value in picking up the Bible. I didn't understand most of the Bible, but what I could understand, I took to heart. I really enjoyed the daily scriptures or whatever it is. I used to spend several hours every morning journaling and trying to understand the Bible. Several hours. That was me already being dedicated to God, being a servant of God. I didn't understand it all, but I was doing something about it. And my mind wasn't going to allow me to, you have now you're submissive now to a higher power here, Christy. Because, even then, my human self, my human mind was like, no, you're not going to control me. So it was hard for me, or I was not really thinking about it in that terms. I was just enjoying the process. You put too much thought into it and you can ruin everything. That's the point there. So I began to pray to God about healing my marriage, because by that point, I think I was married to him about 16 or 17 years or so. And I was getting to the point of complete exhaustion. It's like, I've tried every single thing. It's either I'm going to leave or I need you to do this for me, God. My heart is telling me to stay for so many reasons. It's telling me to stay, not just because I know I love my husband, because I honestly do. I love my husband. But for other reasons, I loved my family here too. Or I knew that other people weren't going to do this. So somebody had to stay here and be the greater person. I was going to sacrifice myself for love. And that's what I chose. I chose to sacrifice, I guess you can say, my own happiness for love. For love. To give love to my husband. To give love to his mom and dad. His mom, who was living, of course, at the time, and dad, who still is. A sacrifice. Now, there are people, because, my husband and I we're definitely having lots of issues. So my God was telling me to stay. His God, from what he has told me, was telling him to go. Two different sides. Although my other God was telling me to go too a long time ago. But I listened to the God within my heart. The God within my heart. We think that the God in the mind is the true God because we're so used to hearing it express things to us. My God was in my heart. Now, my husband and I are still together. He chose to stay, but his God was speaking to go. So his ego really was telling him to end things. Excuse me here, my husband's giving me a call now. So it was actually, I can't say that it was easier for me to make the choice to stay with my husband because I chose love. But because I have always been, one of my characteristics, a great characteristics, is I'm very loving. And of course, being a mom, I had another aspect that was assisting me. A mom is very loving, and a mother will always sacrifice for their children or family in general. But in my past love, when I used to give, it was based on conditions and expectations. And if you didn't come back and love me, or if you weren't there for me in return, or if you didn't do this, this, and this, and this, well, that means that you don't love me type of ideas and stuff. That meant that love, which is a feminine aspect, a feminine energy, wasn't being supported by the masculine energy properly. So it was a misuse of feminine energy. And we misuse the feminine energy all the time, which is a form of Chet, or the 8th commandment of stealing and robbing energy and using it incorrectly. I hope that makes sense to you there. Now, I also want to make you understand, I could have stayed here with my husband and chosen love. That's a scenario here. You can stay and choose love in any relationship. Any relationship. I don't care how bad your mind thinks it is. It is fixable. I don't care the scenario. And you, of course, have to be the one to make that decision. And even in staying, if you are choosing to stay, you have to be the one that chooses to heal yourself. If you decide to stay for love and then you are still saying, well, you have to fix this, you have to do this, you, it's your problem, you're the one who's mean to me all the time, you're the one who's abusing me, or you're the one who's belittling me, you're the one who's controlling me, you're not doing the work inside. We project. We see what we are. So that could have happened. But because I was following the steps, I became conscious of faith. I became conscious of true love. And I knew that my past ideas hadn't worked. Something other than what I knew had to. A power higher than myself had to. I had to trust it, though. And I had to be patient on this journey. Very patient. So my husband also, he has a choice. He chose to stay. Or even if he chose to go. Just like so many marriages decide to break up, and then you hear, well, the same stuff is happening all over again. Because you meet the same people that your energy is attracting. You are required to understand and learn your life lessons. And until you do, you're going to continuously develop relationships or situations that are going to resemble every single lesson that you have not learned. Energy via the emotion that you have not learned about, to use proper emotion, and therefore take yourself back into true purity, to the true Adam. So if you're deciding to listen to your God that says to leave, and you are not listening or not still healing yourself in that leaving portion, you're going to have to repeat every single thing. So for myself, it was easier. It was an easy decision to stay and fix it. I'm going to fix this. I am a fixer. But it's not about fixing another individual. It's about fixing what you see in that individual. The eyes of God, the true eyes of God, requires the heart of God, which means it has to be pure. Your entire vessel needs to be pure of light. And that is also what Chet is about, that yoke that binds you two together, that's going to hold both mother and father together. That is the divine light that sticks like a magnet, and it's never going to break unless, of course, you fall back down again. Every single day we have a choice. And is that choice right or wrong? You know, there is really no right or wrong. Because if you think you're making a bad choice, but you realize it's been a bad choice or a lesson, then it's not wrong. It's never wrong. So if I had left my husband and I therefore found somebody else or whatever it is, or stayed on my own, I usually take, in my past anyway, I need years of separation from the opposite sex. Because, of course, one, I fear the opposite sex anyway. So, but anyway, I would have hopefully taken some time to heal myself. Hopefully. Probably not. Probably not. And I still would have attracted the same type of men. Whether, because I have been sexually abused, I have been physically abused, I have been controlled, all kinds of things. And that is a form of you learning for the feminine energy. You have to learn about the masculine energy inside. And it is a responsibility of the male gender who is here in this earth to understand and love and nurture their feminine aspect of self internally. Not allowing one to rise above the other, but creating equality. Then that's when the yoke of Chet is given to you. The light of the Holy Spirit and the ray of creation. Because the Holy Spirit is that magnet. Even though it's neutral, because it's formed from love, it is a magnet that just connects everything. All right, so I think that's enough of that form. I don't know how long I've been speaking about that. In this video, I want to talk about pay. Because in order for us to develop the word, pay is necessary. And pay connects us to Aleph. Pay is also going to connect us to Doth. Pay deals with also Aleph, or like I just said, or Taurus. There are still lots of hookups even in pay. In every single Hebrew letter, there is going to be many, many hookups. Because as we get to another letter, it drops down into another one, and so on and so on. So pay is the 17th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Of course, if you add 1 and 7, you get 8. Right back to Chet, right? Although this is not really about Chet today, or making that connection there, it does make a connection. When you, pay has 2 forms. There's going to be the regular pay and then a final pay. Pay also looks like the calf or a backwards C, except it has a tooth or a yod that looks like a tooth. Yod is 10. in the point. So in pay, there's going to be the calf, which also works with your crown, your head. In order for you to really speak truth or of goodness, you have to have a higher aspect of understanding in the brain or atom to be returned and utilized properly. The crown is beginning to open here. The crown is not going to fully open until all of the energies are done properly. You know, of course, like I said, there's the tree of life and then the tree of knowledge of good and evil. I finally said it without mistakes. The tree, you don't get to the tree of life until you have complete knowledge. The tree of life is every single thing. Although they're working simultaneously together, depending on your knowledge now, your knowledge base, whether you're taking the good path or the bad path, you're going to have life. Remember, life also works with chet, which means life, which is about the cerebral spinal fluid continuously flowing. The ever-giving waters of life that flow through the brain, through the spinal canal, through every single thing. The waters that you will never be thirsty ever again. You know, so I ended up having, what was my experience here? Lots of experiences, of course. I was being fed. And now you guys know, though, and you also hear it, of course, today isn't such a bad day, I think, in my vocal cords, where my voice has been changing or going through this harshness. I am developing the word. My mama, I mentioned this in some of my videos, has always said you need to protect your neck, protect your throat. And although Taurus works through the throat, I often just said, oh, it's because of the throat chakra. But what does that even mean? You hear people talking about, well, you need to activate this chakra within your body. It's the weakest within you, but it can be the strongest within you. So that was my perception in learning about the throat chakra. Okay, so this is where I am, very weak, because even back then, especially in my younger youth, I had a hard time speaking. I wouldn't tell anybody how I was feeling. Even when they asked, how are you doing today, Christy? I'm fine, yet I'm dying internally. What do you want to eat today, Christy? Oh, it doesn't matter. How about you choose? I was so afraid to tell people what I wanted to eat. And then even when I'm eating, I was afraid of eating. Oh, that's making so much connection. Because on my path, and I hope you can understand this, it can give you great value in your path. And I can't remember the actual, and I can look it up, but I'm just going to give my wording here. God gave me a couple of phrases in the Bible. It's not what you eat or drink that defiles a man. But it's, oh gosh, I think I've messed that up. Well, I think it's something on the phrase of it's not what you eat or drink that defiles. It's not the meat or drink that defiles a man. It's what comes out. Something, and I should have just looked this up, so please forgive me though. I will probably do that and just put it in my description here. Okay, so I just went and looked it up, so I do apologize for not getting that correct. It's Matthew 15:11. And it says, not that which goeth into the mouth defileth a man, but that which cometh out of the mouth, that defileth a man. Words. And there was another Bible verse. Let's see. So it continues on in Matthew 17 and 18 and 19. You guys can read this on your own if you wanted, but I thought it was very beneficial. Do you not understand that whatever enters into the mouth goes into the belly and is cast out into the drought? But those things which proceed out of the mouth come forth from the heart, and they defile the man. For out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, adulterers, fornicators, thefts, false witnesses, and blasphemies. So, every time, it's not the food. It's not the food, and I totally forget. I'm having a blank about the other verse, so please forgive me about it, that I was guided to. And I knew God was guiding me to it because I have had a terrible relationship with food. Terrible. Now, in 2017 is when I became a fitness coach. 2015 is when I began to lose weight off of my body. That's the first moment that God began to shake me, was in 2015. I was wrestling with God then, actually all of my life, but that's when I knew my actual wrestling, and I was going to win this. I was going to win this struggle. And I lost 160 pounds as my faith was being challenged here. We are being challenged of our faith and of who we are. I always wanted, as I lost the weight, I got down to, I think my lowest was 123. I began to look very skinny and sickly. And it reminded me of my sister who passed away, of how she was progressively losing mass and upon her deathbed. And I look a lot like my sister when I am thinner. And I love her to death. But it reminds me of her struggling with her diabetes. So I never wanted to be skinny. Okay, I've never wanted to be skinny, but I wanted to look beautiful. I definitely wanted to look beautiful for people. Although in my life, those who looked upon me and saw my physical beauty, many people have hurt me. I was sexually abused as a child several times, sexually abused as a young teenager, and just taken advantage of continuously. And the opposite sex has always tried to control me. Always. Because they see my sexual beauty in my body and never have witnessed my internal beauty. So I did try to become physically attractive after losing 160 pounds. And I felt comfortable at 130. It was only 7 pounds. But 130, 135, I had, those thicker thighs and thin abs with a definition, arms, strong arms. Perfect. I thought I was perfect at 130, 135. Something happened in the summer of 2019, which is also the same time I realized I was being awakened. My weight, no matter, I was exercising for an hour a day and doing my fascia blasting, eating properly, and I was very dedicated. So for 4 years, I maintained a healthy lifestyle with physical activity. Something happened no matter what I was doing. I was like, what is happening? The weight came on. It was like 10 pounds within the month and another 10 pounds. It just seemed like it happened in a snap, in a blink of an eye. And I was like, okay, well. And I began to just not want to exercise any longer. Not that I was lazy, but there was just a need to stop. And I began to focus more on faith development. All right, well, this is happening here. I don't like it one bit. I've gained, 30 pounds here, and it seems like a month's time, 2 months' time. And I don't really care to exercise right now. I'm going to dedicate my time to my faith. I don't understand it right now, and hopefully in time I will. That's what I had to do. And God guided me to those verses in the Bible. And because I was thinking about, well, am I eating wrong here? Or what is this and what is this? But because, when you're on a health kick here, you limit what you eat. You limit or you increase your activity. So there's lots of rules to a healthy lifestyle. Rules. I don't like rules. I don't like to be told, well, in order for this, you have to only do this, and this. Those are ideas that have been implanted. All of these rules and regulations have been implanted and come from somewhere. So you hear all over the place, especially even in our the spiritual community. Oh, you can't eat this because it makes you eating of a living soul. Oh, I'm sorry. Everything has a soul because everything contains phosphorus, light. A living soul. Now, a living human, a living soul is, we don't even have a living soul, must be created. Must be created. So the thing that you're eating must have an awareness of it not being a living soul, or an awareness that it wants to be a living soul. You, in human form, many people are walking around, and we say it like zombies, walking around like they're sleeping, because they are unaware that they don't contain a living soul within them. Adam is no longer living within them because he has been dragged down and out of Eden by Eve. We have to work and we have to create through our daily actions of faith and love. Do we create a living soul within us? So that phrase, especially the one that I just read to you, because I can't remember the other one, taught me about faith in substance that I was eating. You take in substance. God is a substance that we take in. We're supposed to eat of that substance and take it into our belly as well, so that we can utilize it further in our own life. Our sexual energy is going to be turned. Therefore, when our sexual energy is turned, our heart is changed, and everything we talk about is beautiful. Food. It begins with you training yourself to have faith. Whether it's food, my journey also required me, or asked me, to stop drinking. It asked me to stop using drugs, whether I was smoking pot, drugs in form of medical drugs as well, is what I'm talking about, for my pain, because I was abusing it. And then I was tested along my journey. Did you stop it because what is the reasons why you're doing things, and what is the reason why you're not doing things? I also mentioned a few weeks ago, or whatever it was, I went to a gathering with my husband, a bluegrass gathering, where of course alcohol was. You are going to be tested to see your own strength. Now, I'm not saying anybody who drinks is a bad person. That is not the point. And I'm not saying anybody who doesn't drink is better than the person who does drink. Alcoholism, or any other thing, it could be food, it could be medicine, it could be alcohol, drugs. If you use anything to abuse, it is because it comes from the solar plexus. No power, no willpower, no internal strength. You have to develop your own strength, and it requires a sacrifice. It requires you understanding that you have a problem. Do you have a problem? I had a problem. I had to cover up. Well, of course I had pain, but I was abusing my medical pills with alcohol because I was always afraid, and I was always anxious, and I didn't feel like I was being loved, and I thought that I would be loved if I was somebody else. How do I become somebody else? I drown out my true being. I drugged up my true being and became somebody else. Somebody else was living inside of me for all my life, not me. And so getting off of alcohol, I would be tested. You have to you have to put yourself into situations. You can't refrain from going somewhere because it's not good for you and because you think you're better than that situation. Well, does that make you better than the situation? If you refrain from anything, like I am not going to go to this community because these people don't deserve my love, don't deserve me, or they're lesser than me. You're judging that situation already. You have an idea about how bad people are or what happens. You don't trust yourself in that environment. You don't know who you are in that environment. I went and I go through cycles. I haven't been out of this house because of my mother-in-law taking care of her more intensely for the past 4 or 5 years here until 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, this past month here. Anyway, 2 times. And I have to see, am I anxious around people? Do I feel good about myself around people? Do I have to drink around other people? Why are you doing things? And are you the type of person who has a bad day? Oh, I'm going to come home and I got to drink it away. I'm a bad person. I had a bad time today. I'm going to come home and I'm going to overindulge in food. And then I'm going to, every time, especially with food, you overeat, you feel bad. You overdrink, you feel hungover the next day. There's a cause and effect. And you really have to learn all about that. And so that verse in the Bible taught me how to have faith in what I'm eating. Control of yourself. I will eat a cake if I want to. I will eat Oreos. I will eat chips. I will eat meat. I'm going to eat every single thing because God is love and God is full of abundance. Now, this is just something that has taught me about what true faith is and what true love is. I'm not saying you have to. I understand that there's no limit to faith and no limit to love. There's no limit to God. So why are we limiting what we can learn here? If you have to stop eating something to be a good person, you're really not trusting yourself when you're eating something. You don't understand what you're eating and why you're eating it. I eat what my body is requiring. And then, therefore, I also love what my body is requiring to the point that I know that that thing that I'm eating is not going to cause me any harm. I said I have maintained this level of weight for almost 5 years now. I guess at least for 4 years. 11 on the time clock. I like this weight? You know, it's not appealing to others probably. And some days I don't feel comfortable, not because of my weight, but because of the fluctuation of water or gas or fire. So the elements are going to do its job, and it's going to make you feel bloated. It's going to make you feel full. It's going to make you feel heavy. It's purifying. So I have fluctuated a 5-pound difference from time to time only, but I have maintained this weight for the last 5 years, because I have faith in what I eat. Now, I'm not going to say that I didn't try being a vegetarian. I'm not going to say I didn't try being a vegan. I did. But I was brought to those verses in the Bible. Having faith in what you eat. It's not about what you eat or drink. If it's not about what you eat or drink, then why are people putting so much labeling on, you have to be a vegetarian, you have to be a vegan, it's wrong to eat meat, it's wrong to eat junk food. I'm not condoning junk food. I'm not condoning alcohol. I'm not condoning being one way over the other. I'm emphasizing the need to learn, and to love, and to have faith. And use that faith to be a better person. So, pay, again, if we get back to pay, it requires our digestion. So I ended up seeing a couple, at least a week ago, but probably 2 weeks ago, since so much goes on every single day, that I was eating some food. I was being fed food. You're required to take in knowledge. And this knowledge, just like that verse, is what you eat is going to go in through your mouth and has to be digested into your stomach. The stomach is the solar plexus. It's where, of course, the development of Christ's light is. It's our solar house, the powerhouse. It is the sun within our body. It's also Beth house, okay? But, of course, Beth house is even higher than that. It's where the fish is born, in the manger. The solar plexus. Although it's still the combination of the solar plexus and the sacral chakra, because it becomes the solar sacrum behind in the spine. That develops the actual embryo of Jesus Christ, or the Christ element. And then it is transferred into fuel. And it turns into light, depending, or whatever it is, depending on your own taking of knowledge, nourishment, food. You are going to develop that. And that is what pay is all about. And because pay has that too, so you know that you have to chew first on your food. So even last week, for a few days, my teeth, my gums were a little tender. And I kept having to bite down on my teeth, and I'm actually doing that. So if you heard my teeth pounding together, that was it. I had just had that need to just grind and grind. And I understood as what it meant. Is that I was learning, I was chewing in on nourishment. I was taking it in. And then the process of chewing is that we have to be able to swallow it. How many times we take a bite of our own food and we get our mouth full of food, and then when we're chewing it and swallowing it, we kind of choke on it because we have put too much food into our mouth and we choke on it. So it has to be a proper amount of nourishment as well. We can't overindulge and we can't make ourselves lag. So this is all about our proper digestion of knowledge. Although it works with every single thing in our reality is going to teach us how to digest the actual word. So I have also been training myself to eat whatever it is that my body wants. You know that in our ascension cycle, we go through periods of, you know what, this is making me feel sick. Or my taste buds aren't working with this. So let's just use broccoli, greens, whatever it is. I went through a period of I could only eat broccoli for a couple of months. And then I went to a period of even the sight of it would make me nauseous. That's how our ascension cycle is. So the things that you once loved are going to become the things that you can't digest any longer. And then the things that you once couldn't even digest or didn't even think about, things that you thought you were allergic to, like for me, onions and garlic, you're going to be able to feed on those things. Our body, our inner being always knows what's best for us. And it's going to be our guide along our journey. And if you are refraining from having something, it's a limit. And that's just my perspective. There's no limit to loving yourself or others. We can't limit anything and think that we are loving ourselves, if we are limiting it. And this is not about being selfish. This is not about selfishness. So you really have to understand what that is all about and how to utilize it. So when I take a bite of food, I make sure that it is, even when I am really, really hungry. Breathe, Christy. Slow it down. Slow it down. This food isn't going anywhere, and neither are you. Let's love it. And I love every single thing that's on my plate. Even if it's something that, it doesn't look appealing, it really isn't good today, but I'm going to love this food because it's going to do something proper internally. That's what pay is all about. But pay isn't about the true food that we take in. It's about the higher nourishment of food that's coming in from the light of the Ein Sof. It's that continuous flow of light that's coming in that's going to be our greatest support. But pay also sounds like hey, which is of Yod Hey, vow, hey, because this is where we are. We're compiling the written name of God. We are creating the very first atom. Yod is the point of divine origin, where pay needs. But pay needs lamed in order to do that as well. And I spoke about lamed. Lamed is the only one that hangs further to the crown because it's dragging down that light, and it's going to enter into the mouth, and it's going to go into the throat and down into the stomach. You have to have all of these hookups. So pay works with hey. It all sounds the same. Pay, hey. It comes from the voice, the throat. But in order for us to get the proper voice out with the proper expression, we need the breath. And that's what pay is. Pay is the breath that God has actually breathed into the nose of Adam. And what sits in the very back of the nose? The pituitary gland. So pay works with hey. Hey is the feminine aspect of Yod in hey. Also, there's vow in hey. So this is the second hey, not the final hey. The final hey is the hey of the uterus, of the feminine aspect, the mother who is giving birth, and the second hey, or the second hey from Yod hey, of Yod hey, is still the feminine aspect, because the throat is also the second uterus. We all have both of these birthing canals within us, although the male, of course, does not have the actual ability to give birth. Yours is in your stomach, and this is why we might have the womb here and the ability to give birth externally in this reality. You have the ability to birth within your stomach, and that's why the solar plexus is so, where we chew our food at, is so significant. And because Hay works with Eve here, this is where she is at. He's reuniting her with her, or supposed to reunite with her in the throat, which is the secret doorway to knowledge, where, because they both fell, remember, they took that knowledge and they fell and chose to fall out of Eden, out of heaven, out of paradise. Pei is Adam, because he is the very first word. He was the word. He was what God created first. So now you have Pei and you have He, who also is going to be reunited. And I've already spoke about Doth being the unification of both of these elements in my previous video. And so I briefly wanted to talk about the coronavirus. And I know I have, I think, in one of my other videos a long time ago. And I really try to refrain from even talking about these things in the world that are going on. But I mentioned it before that, coronavirus, of course, it has corona in it, which means crown. My perception when it first began, of course, if it had began years ago, I would have been one of those people who stayed in the house, really listened to authority and stayed with my home. and been terrified and controlled my family and my son, because back then he would have been still living at home. Blah. So anyway, I would have been very fearful then, but I was not. When it first came out, I already had an understanding. It was an upgrade in consciousness. An upgrade in consciousness. But even consciousness can take its downward spiral, depending on your level of understanding and on your level of purity and on your level of heart. I got very sick in January, and although I didn't go and get a test done, I knew that that was it. For about 13 days, we all had it. We all got it here. I know my son and my granddaughter's mom, they both were diagnosed with it. So I knew that, anyway, there was no need for me to get an actual diagnosis. I don't go to the doctors anyway, so it's my choice not to put my own life in somebody else's hands other than my own authority within. I'm on a path of self-healing here. So I knew that I was being consciously upgraded. So what happens anyway? I've noticed this in the coronavirus. Anything that affects the crown, any virus that is going to affect the crown is going, you heard this, your smell is off, your taste is off, your hearing is going to be off, and sight can be off as well. So your entire senses, it works with your senses, but it also affects your breathing. You heard that a lot, but you also heard it that it affects the heart. And now the coronavirus can affect any single thing in the body, really. But there are a lot of things that caught my awareness with it. Anything, of course, that affects the crown has any ability affecting any part of our body, because the crown, the brain, has the 12 cranial nerves. And any time the brain is affected, it's going to change your chemical backup. And then I was like, I heard people talk about everything was too salty. Oh, salt, the salt of the earth. God talks about being the salt of the earth. And that was one of my issues when I had it, or when I, was upgrading then, and that's what I called it then. I was being upgraded, is that everything was too salty. And then my smell, the smell was I was very sensitive. So very sensitive, meaning I was opening and expanding in my senses. I could smell things that nobody else could smell. I could hear things that nobody else could hear. But I also didn't feel 100%. And we know in our ascension cycle, you don't feel 100% all the time. It's because impurities are always coming out. But now I forget why I wanted to talk about this, but it was on my mind, so I added that to this video anyway. But as I got to talking about it, the reasoning behind it has left me, and hopefully it will come back within this video. I do apologize that these videos have been more lengthier than I usually do, but I guess it's necessary. So to give you a greater understanding about Yod He, Vau He, this is about duality here. You have Yod and He, which acts as the phallus in the uterus. You're going to have the Vau and the He, which acts as man and woman. The man and woman must be married in holy matrimony and return back to the throat where the word of God has been spoken, so that Adam can be reunited back into the crown or into the kingdom, where he was born at all over again. So remember that the word can be a two-edged sword, which means that nothing, the true word of God, can do nothing without its counterpart, or is nothing without its counterpart of the feminine aspect of Zion, assisting it along its journey, which of course unites, is that unification of male and female working harmoniously together, including that sacred marriage. But in order for Adam, again, to be reunited back into his original source, Adam, A-T-O-M, Adam is what creates the true Adam. That true one that was at the very beginning of time is what returns the soul into matter, the spirit into matter. But in order for Adam to truly sit within the kingdom, it needs Beth. Beth also is in relationship to Pe. Beth, I also mentioned that the solar plexus is the Beth house or Bethlehem that Christ was born in. But so is you're going to reunite that at the crown. If you look at Beth, it also looks like the chet or the calf, excuse me. That's similar to Pe, which is also again similar to calf, which deals with the crown. But Beth is the house of the Lord. In order to return Adam back to the house of the Lord, you're going to have to receive the breath of life, which works through Pe, but is going to also work through Aleph. We're in Aleph, but there's still lots of work to be done. And I hope to give you a greater understanding every single time I make a video here in relationship to it. So Pe has that yod, which acts as a tooth. The knowledge or the light that you're chewing on, you're becoming this. Yod works with Kether of the very top sphere of the tree of life. And this is the very first logos, which means that the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet have entered into you. And it creates the ray of creation. It is the written word. Everything from Aleph to Tav is now being digested and becoming of something of the true spirit. So the Bible says in the beginning was the Word, and the word beginning is a Bereshith, and I hope I pronounced that correct. So in the beginning, Bereshith was the word, which is the first and the last words of the Hebrew alphabet. It creates at, which is I am the Alpha and the Omega. I am the Aleph and I am the Tav, which is and compiles the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Now, the word Deuteronomy in the Bible translates into the word or thing, but in the word thing translates into Hebrew as the word, and it continues on and says all words were generated by him, and without him was not any word generated. Like that was generated. In him was life. I think I missed a verse there, so I do apologize. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shines from darkness, yet the darkness comprehended not. And that's what I talked about in the new moon in Taurus, where Yesod and Kether are united at Doth. Or Makolth is united at Doth, right there, at the throat, creating Doth, the secret knowledge. So what is actually required is the mouth of Adam, which acts as Pe, and the voice of Eve, which acts as He. It completes and makes up Doth of secret knowledge. And so I think I'm going to just leave it as where I am in this and close out this video, and I'm going to be making several other videos that have other ideas. And I do really appreciate the comments that are left in general, because it gives me ideas as well to make other videos. If you guys have information or you guys have questions, you're helping me along my journey as well, and giving I can help you better if I know exactly what it is that you guys are requiring of me. So, and that is what I am saying. And so I do thank the people who are actually leaving comments and have questions, because I am going to respond. If I don't respond usually in my in the comments, I will more than likely make a video about it. And please just bear with me, because there is so much that goes through all of this. I go through my own cycle that I have information about, and then, you know, energy is talking, sources talking about energy, and I have that to share. So there's just so much that I could be sharing. But of course, if you guys are having questions, that is something that I find valuable as well, in giving back in return. So please continue to do so, and I will talk to you guys soon. This is Christy. Much love, health, and healing your way. I am bringing purpose to your life. Take care.